Hello, I'm Steve Wood. I really don't remember much of September 11th because I had just gotten my wisdom teeth pulled and it was kind of like an operation and I was staying at my family's house, and when I stopped taking the pain medicine and then I realized what was going on and what everybody was crying about when watching TV, you know, the gravity of the situation kicked in, and I had joined the military about a year before that, so, and growing up as a hardcore Republican and thinking that America is, number one in every little aspect of the world, I was a little bit angry, and so I was called pretty quickly, and I was told that, we're getting deployed, and I ended up going to Egypt instead, which kind of disappointed me because I just wanted to go and fight, which ignorant, but so after that deployment, came home, and then I finally got a call to say I was going to Guantánamo Bay, and I was a little disappointed, but in a way I was happy because I was going to have the opportunity to, be face to face with the people that planned, September 11th. So, but with that situation, it was not realistic at all, like I thought it would be, and So.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for this very personal talk, Steve Wood, please join us in conversation. We will talk about Guantánamo Bay and your very, very special friendship with Mohamedou Ould Slahi tonight. Tonight is made possible by Stichting Democratie en Media and het V-Fonds, and we're very grateful to them. And my name is Yuri Albrecht, and I'm director of the Balie. And this evening, we will be talking about a very, very, very special friendship. So I want to thank you both very, very much for being here and talking to the audience and talking to each other and talking to us. I think it's a wonderful thing that you're willing to sit here and share your friendship and be able to talk about that, out in the open in such a special relationship you both forged in such amazingly difficult circumstances. So thank you very much for being here, for coming across the ocean and talking to us. And Mohamedou Ould Slahi, thank you very much. This is the 5th conversation we're conducting together about your life, about the things you have been going through. Just to remind the public a little bit, you were trained as an engineer in Germany and arrested in your home country of Mauritania in 2001. And after a year, you were taken to Guantánamo Bay prison, where Mohamedou Ould Slahi, where you were held for 14 years, mostly in solitary confinement and severely tortured. No charges were ever brought against you. You were never convicted. You were never found guilty of anything you were accused of, and that after years and years of investigation. In 2015, while you were still incarcerated, your book Guantánamo Diary was published. This book, I can thoroughly recommend it to everyone. You can buy it in Dutch, you can buy it in English. It's an amazing account of, as it says here, an eyewitness to the global war on terror and what it involved, the global war on terror, which was, proclaimed by President Bush, like we just seen, and all the consequences of that. This year, you are a writer in residence here in the Balie. Your diary, which was written in prison and smuggled out, and only years later, due to the labors of Larry Seams, published while you were still in prison, was made into The Mauritanian film, very impressive movie, among others with Jodie Foster as your lawyer, Nancy Hollander. We had a conversation with her earlier this year here in the same place as well, among other conversations we had. Mohamedou, we just heard Steve Steve saying that, you know, how he was very unprepared to be sent to Guantánamo Bay because he thought he was going to defend his country and suddenly found himself guarding prisoners as a member of the National Guard, the National Reserve. Can you tell us a little bit about the moments when you saw, you know, the images we're seeing now, and how do you sort of live through that from a far away place, not being in New York, and you know the world suddenly turned, but you probably didn't know, like most of us didn't know, that was a sort of moment it was. Welcome again.
Thank you so much,
my friend.
First, I really want to thank you so much and thank so many people behind the organization of this meeting. And today, the 30th of December, it's my 1-year anniversary in the Netherlands today. This was not like people who organized this, they did not organize based on that. And I can never forget when you know, this was a great deal of work. And I'm not going to start naming names because I don't want to get killed. But I really want to thank my family in the Balie and my family in Groningen, NNT Guy and Ronnie, and so many people who helped me integrate here, learn the language. When I arrived in Schiphol airport, the Koninklijk Marechaussee came to the plane. And then they took me out, and they took an African lady, and they took someone who is a Pakistani or of Indian descent. And those are like the kind of people I love to be with all the time, the usual suspect. And then they start asking me questions. So, what are you doing here? I was like, I'm invited here. I'm a writer. So, are you a political person? I was like, I was invited here. You can call the people. And then he was very frustrated with me, the agent, because I was not, the agent. So, and because I was not very talkative. And then he took the phone and he told me, who invited you? And I gave him the number of Harman, who was waiting on me. And he picked up the phone, he said, hij spreekt geen goed Engels. And my Dutch was not that good. Now my Dutch is really good, yes. But I understood what he said. And that was my plan, actually. Not because I was interrogated for almost 17 years. Almost uninterrupted interrogation. And I know how to talk to the police. And then he took me to a room, and then he pulled out Guantánamo file, you know. And you pull out this picture that is so scary, like...
Not the book, but the real file.
The
with
file.
The photograph.
Yeah, sent by Americans.
Yeah.
So. And then this picture, I don't remember this picture because my face was swollen, I think from beating. And then it was forceful because two people were holding me. And like, I looked really scary. If I saw myself, I would have put myself in a prison, actually. Because that photo was really ugly. And then he said, is this you? And this is propaganda. You know, the photo is really very important, you know. And then I said, were you in Guantánamo Bay? I said, yes. You need to call my lawyer, I said. And then he said, no, I want you to talk to me about your story. I said, I'm sorry, but you have to talk to the people who invited me. And then he ended up like, you know what? I was a little bit like, I was scared, to be honest, but I knew they will not torture me, and that to me was a very big thing. You know, the worst thing, they would send me back to Africa, you know. And this is very important, like in this country, the rule of law. You guys take it for granted, but this is really very important thing. You know, that you are not afraid of the police. This is very important in this country. And then, so he ended up, when there was no way with me, calling the lawyer, and then he came back to me, and he told me, there is no problem, and you can enter. Now I start speaking. I told him, dank u, ik hou van Nederland. That's all I knew, you know? And thus started my journey, my beautiful journey. And I don't think we need to tell you anything. This is me, Mohamedou Ould Slahi, ISN 760. This is Steve Wood. That's not the name he gave to me. He told me his name was Stretch. You know? So that's
really
him.
skinny. I was like,
Yeah, so, and this is Yuri, when this is Amsterdam. And I always remember the saying of Joseph Roth. Joseph Roth is Austrian writer, and he fled the Nazi Germany, 1938. And he lived here in Amsterdam. And he made a declaration to a newspaper, local newspaper, and he said, dit is een klein land, maar van de kleine landen het meest vrij. This is a small country, but among the small countries, it's the freest or the most free. You correct me. Anyway, so, and I'm really so happy, and you know, this is the right place to debate, because we cannot ignore that America is a very powerful country, and America is, by and large, good people, and we need to tell them, because I cannot go to America and talk to him. They don't allow me, but I'm here in Amsterdam and I can talk to him. To your question, I remember this day.
Thank you for the introduction, Mohamedou.
I was minding my own business, taking care of my camels in Mauritania, and setting up a computer network for a German organization called then GTZ, Gesellschaft für Technische Zusammenarbeit, Society for Technical Cooperation. And I was like setting up the service. And then this guy came to us and he said, World War III. You know, I didn't understand, you know, because I was really very consumed by my work. And then when I came back home, you know, to my cousin, he was inviting me for lunch, Ibrahim. Every TV channel was running this horrific picture. And my heart just was dropped because, you know, I was already under house arrest, trying to, you know, live my life under house arrest. And from there, everything, you know, went south for my life.
For a very, very long time.
For a very long time, indeed.
And you were arrested by the Mauritanian secret police, and then, to your surprise, flown to Jordania. You didn't know it was Jordania, wasn't it? You didn't know.
I heard in the radio. I heard.
You heard him talk.
Yes.
Yeah. So
I know.
So you knew.
But they didn't think I know.
No, and you were there for almost a year, little under a year, but for a very long time.
Yes.
And then flown to another place, which
CIA took me to Afghanistan.
Yeah.
Correct.
And then from Afghanistan, eventually
Guantánamo Bay.
To Guantánamo Bay. We've asked actor and very good friend of the Balie, Jochem ten Haaf, who's been here many times before, to read a passage from your book, Guantánamo Diary. Jochem, thank you.
person was undoing the chains on my wrists. He undid the first hand, and another guy grabbed that hand and bent it, while a third person was putting on the new, firmer and heavier shackles. And now my hands were shackled in front of me. Somebody started to rip my clothes with something like a scissors, and I was like, what the heck is going on? I started to worry about the trip I neither wanted nor initiated. Somebody else was deciding everything for me. I had all the worries in the world but making a decision. And many thoughts went quickly through my head. And the optimistic one suggested, maybe you're in the hands of the Americans, but don't worry, they just want to take you home and make sure that everything goes in secrecy. The pessimistic thoughts went, you screwed up. The Americans managed to pin some shit on you, and they're taking you to US prisons for the rest of your life. I was stripped naked. Humiliating. But the blindfold helped me miss the nasty look of my naked body. During the whole procedure, the only prayer I could remember was the crisis prayer. Ya Hayyu Ya Qayyum. And I was mumbling it all the time. And whenever I came to be in a similar situation, I would forget all my prayers except the crisis prayer, which I learned from life of our prophet, peace be upon him. One of the team members wrapped a diaper around my private parts. Only then was I dead sure that the plane was heading to the United States. And now I started to convince myself that everything is going to be all right. My only worry was about my family, seeing me on television in such a degrading situation. I was so skinny. I've always been, but never that skinny. My street clothes had become so loose that I looked like a small cat in a big bag. When the US team finished putting me in the clothes they tailored for me, a guy removed my blindfold for a moment. I couldn't see much because he directed a flashlight into my eyes. And he was wrapped from head to toe in a black uniform. He opened his mouth and stuck his tongue out, gesturing for me to do the same, a kind of AHH test, which I took without any resistance. And then I saw part of his very pale, blonde-haired arm, which cemented my theory of being in Uncle Sam's hands.
Thank you, Jochem. When you're listening to those fragments you wrote yourself, Mohamedou, it seems like you're back there, isn't it? You're reliving it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. You know, this moment that my brother Jochem just read, it was like 5 minutes because those special force people, they trained to do very quick operation. And these 5 minutes changed my whole life because I know I was going, like, it occurred to me that I will never live again. So that I will die either like in a prison or they could like convict me. And I started like to recall like my regrets. And then I will tell you what I didn't regret. For instance, not having money, I didn't regret that. Or not having like beautiful house in Paris, I didn't regret that. I did not regret so many beautiful women I met in college who did not want me at all. That was not, a regret. One single regret I had is every time I made a bad comment to my mother, thank you for coming. Je bent uit de middelbare school. Ja, ik ben naar jouw school gegaan. Klopt? Dank je. So, so the only thing, every time I made a bad comment to a person, I regretted that. And I made a pact. I was desperate. I said, Allah, if you save me this time, I promise to be a very kind person. That's all that mattered to me. you know, because it occurred to me that this is what life is about, you know, because when we die, people will only remember the good thing, when we made them laugh, when we help them, when we tell them, you know what, everything's going to be all right, you know, etc. So those 5 minutes completely take me from person 1 to person 2 to this very day.
Did you know when you were going to Guantánamo, because you were there from 2004 to 2005, I believe?
Yeah.
And you thought you were going to be sent to the Middle East, to war.
Yeah.
And you just told us, and I read also that you were raised in a Republican surroundings where, you know, being a hero going overseas, fighting a war was something you came quite natural in your family. And so you were volunteering in the National Guard, and then suddenly these terrible things happened, and you got a phone call from your sergeant, I think.
Platoon sergeant, yeah.
Platoon sergeant, yeah, saying, so be prepared. So you were prepared.
Oh, mentally, for sure, yeah.
You were going overseas and doing the right thing there. And then, to your surprise, you were sent to the Caribbean, to a place you'd probably never heard of, Guantánamo Bay prison.
It had been on the news in that around that time period.
Had been on the news. Yeah. So you knew the name. So
few of the names, but it was the worst of the worst. So that's all I needed to know.
The worst of the worst were the people who were there.
Yeah.
So you thought. What did you think? You thought it's like a pity to go there, or a good thing, or you'd rather go to Iraq, or
yeah.
How did you feel about it?
In the U.S. military, it's like it's a thing of pride to go to war,
Yeah.
And
yeah.
So I was missing my chance to go to war, which is kind of sick in a way, but I think it's wrong now, obviously. Mm-hmm. But eventually I realized, hey, the guys that plan 9/11 will be in Guantánamo Bay, and I had no plans on, being violent or anything. But even just to keep them locked up, be a part of that. Like, it's a small part of the big battle.
Yeah, at least you did your part.
Yeah, and then I'd get another chance later on,
Another tour too.
Yeah.
And so you were sort of told that those were the worst you were going to guard, and then did you, because after the scene we just heard from the book, terrible things happened to Mohamedou. I mean, if you read it, I'm not going to dwell upon it, but suffice to say that you were severely tortured. And did you realize that things happening there, or did you never realize that, or how does you go about when you come there? What do you discover that, or is that totally secret, or?
You kind of discover it, like you hear rumors in the news and stuff, and it doesn't sound like to me, like America does nothing wrong. George Bush is God, pretty much. He's not a liar, like obviously he is, but so I go there thinking, oh yeah, it's gonna be a lot better than what it is, And I remember my first day working in like the regular cell blocks. This was before I was switched to Mohamedou, and a second detainee, me and a partner were escorting to the showers. My partner just started reefing on his arm, and like that right there, I mean, that's he would have ended up torturing people if he would have kept doing that. Like and he had a smile on his face, and like that's what I realized it was a dark place. People turn dark very easily there. But then
what that's very beautifully said, and I think everybody can relate to that it's a dark place and people turn dark. But what do you mean with that? What happens to people?
The human mind is weak.
Mm-hmm.
I don't understand. Like like the guy that did the arm twisting, like I can't comprehend it. Yeah.
Was it a shock to you?
Yeah, I was definitely shocked. I was pro-war, everything America, you know.
Yeah.
But to inflict pain on somebody like that was just, it didn't make sense to me.
And then how did you? Because that's pretty shocking when you think you're going to do the right thing and suddenly you're there. And so how did you find out that they were torturing the inmates? Can you remember that?
Yeah, so I worked 2 days in the regular, in Camp Delta cell blocks, and then I got chosen along with 5 other guys, to work on a special mission, they called it. And that special mission was Mohamedou. And
Mohamedou was the special mission you were going on.
Yeah, he was like the second detainee chosen to go through torture by Donald Rumsfeld. Yeah. And,
on a personal order by Donald Rumsfeld. Yeah, signed by Donald
100%,
Rumsfeld.
yeah. So he was, So that's how I found it out. Like my first day going to guard him, the guards that we took over from, I mean they gave me details like things about a boat ride and like I'm getting beat up and other crap, but
They gave you the details what happened to him, or?
Yeah, it's really similar to what's in the book. Yeah, there's a few things they left out. They didn't want to look too guilty.
Wow. And how did you cope with that?
But I was also told that because of that, thousands of American lives were saved. So I allowed it in my mind.
Yeah.
And I didn't know.
I can understand. I'm just trying to. I think for us it's one of the bigger fears that you're put in the situation where you do things which you morally would, and I can totally comprehend. I'm just trying to understand what's happening, and it's frightening that that we are capable of those sort of things.
Oh, it's horrible. It's very frightening. They told us also that our job was to build them back up, which that's to me I was like, okay, thank God. It's I don't know, that was probably the best news I heard. I was like, he was already damaged. What I saw, it was horrible. But how I did that in my mind, it's accepted that he had been tortured and just didn't say anything. I don't know how. I don't know.
Yeah. Well,
cowardice.
Sorry?
Cowardice. I should have said something. That was.
You would call that you would call it cowardice? You think you should have, or I mean, that you would probably not have gotten very far with that, or if you would have objected.
Yeah. But yeah.
I think
at that point, I don't know. It was just everything was so wrong anyway. I should have said something.
Thank you for being, amazingly honest with us. This is just very, very actually courageous, I would say, to talk about that. If you listen to your friend, Steve, can you remember that sort of first period when he came to Guantánamo?
Yes, absolutely. So when he came, I was very reclusive. I did not want to talk to anyone, and I had a life in my head that I created. And every time I speak with someone, they disturb the life that I created. And then I was always in my cell. I was in isolation, total isolation. And then he came to me, and he was almost half asleep. Said, drink coffee. And I am not a big coffee drinker, but you don't want to tell. He was the boss of the guard. And then I said, yes. He said, get out. And then I came, we sat in front of the cell, and then he made coffee. verschrikkelijk coffee.
It was amazing. World's best coffee. Swear to God. Like,
I said it's good in Dutch.
no, you didn't. No, you didn't.
So, and then we sat, and then he told me to play cards. And then I said, yeah, like every country different. He said, okay, I teach you Rami. And he sat with me and he taught me Rami. And then I started smoking him, actually. But he wouldn't admit to that. So, and then...
This is his day. Let's pretend. Yeah. He smoked me. Yeah.
This is a revenge, actually. We are using you because I want to take a revenge.
No.
Revenge.
Yes.
He doesn't know it's coming. This is what
Yes. So, and yeah, then, you know, he was like, of course, tentatively trying to, you know, just to talk to me as a human being. And I was very scared of him.
To build you up. Huh? That was sort of the idea. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. It was like, but he was like very kind to me. And
That scared you?
I wasn't thinking about fear or not. I was just surviving, actually. Everything I was doing just to stay alive. That's it. I just want to stay alive. And he was also like going out of his way to make me comfortable. He brought me pecan pie. Anyone ate pecan pie? It's really good. It's really good. He brought me pecan pie, like 6 pieces. I ate all of them. And I was like 48 hours I couldn't sleep. Oh my God, seriously. And the chicken too. And then, you know, the chicken you brought, you know, the chicken.
Yeah.
You said you don't like the chicken because it looks like it's alive.
Yeah.
You know?
I got
You remember
separate
that?
legs. I can't look like it.
Yeah, I said, I don't want that. This all like, it's not my food, he brought it, so this was illegal.
Illegal.
Yes. Okay, I would do that later on. And and then we started the friendship. So I knew he was honest when we start gossiping about other people, like interrogators, and you know, we make fun. And then he started making fun of the U.S. government, which is like a big no-no. He took one penny because sometimes I'm very down, but he keep like encouraging me to talk to him. And then one time I said, I don't want. He said, get up. No, I won't sleep. Get up. And then he took this penny. He said, you know how much Al-Qaeda can store information in this penny? You know, I found it in yourself. I found it for yourself. And then just we have fun. And then he told me, of course, his real name, because that was also a no-go zone.
Because up until then you thought the only thing you knew was that he was called Stretch.
Yeah, but I knew it was fake.
He found out within a day of every single person that would go in there somehow, like that.
Really?
X-ray vision or something. Like, seriously, he had some way to find out. Like, it's a penny.
You know, I'm sorry to say this, but like they have fake names, and sometimes the tape falls, and it's like if someone forget to close, you know, their zipper after the bathroom. You see them, but you cannot tell them. You know what I mean? It's awkward. That's exactly the same thing when it falls. I register the name, but I say nothing. You know, because some guys, they really get very, said, oh, and then they get very scared. And I don't want to scare them, you know. I just
The
say
guards
nothing.
got scared when you knew their names?
Yes.
Some of them?
Yes.
Because, I mean, scared of
Because
you
they were
being-
told
being
that I'm a very dangerous person and that I could order their killing from inside prison. This is true. You think it's a joke? Yeah. It's not a joke.
I didn't believe that one. No,
They really tell them
they did
I'm...
say that.
yeah.
Yeah, for
They
sure.
did say that.
Oh yeah, like dude, no personal information. We weren't supposed to talk about like what city we lived in or like no personal details at all.
When did you start to find out that he might not be sort of the total horror movie monster?
It was pretty quick. I mean, like
What is pretty quick? Is that like
I would say like Probably a couple of months, honestly. It was a process for me, you know. Like it was not just what was going on in Guantanamo. It was also like what was going on in Iraq at the time. When I realized everything was fucking bullshit. Excuse my language. Sorry. Everything was wrong that led up to Iraq, and pretty much everything else that the U.S. has been involved in you know, in wars and stuff. And so I did a lot of research, had a lot of time, and so I started questioning everything, and then I started questioning Guantánamo Bay, and it just kind of, it's a rabbit hole.
So it's a combination of what you were reading on,
Yeah.
starting to realize, and going. Was that daily with Mohamedou? Sort of meeting him daily, or was
Almost daily, yeah.
Yeah, it was like 2 days on, 1 day off, I think. 12-hour days.
that must have been. I mean, it sounds weird in a way, but it must have been really hard for you to realize that you were in a place which was maybe not the right place, or the whitehead in the movie, or doing the right thing, or being on the side of the righteousness.
Oh, yeah.
It must have been very hard for you.
Oh, yeah, still, I don't like knowing that I was a part of that place at all. Like, I'm still working on my karma for that one.
Really?
Yeah.
And can you remember when you've sort of the first time you realized that, hey, this is maybe not, you know, a terrible person, but maybe just somebody you could possibly be friends with?
Strangely enough, it was like in the very beginning, like we had to act, you know, because if we treated him nicely, he's going to continue to save thousands of people, you know, because he'd already been tortured. So, but I realized really quickly that he was actually a funny guy, a cool guy to hang out with, and like, I don't know, he seemed honest, and it's kind of a hunch too, I guess, but
A hunch.
yeah, like, but there's no like specific time, I guess. I was like, I think like, I felt like, I was like, oh, I really enjoy hanging out with this guy that might have been part of 9/11. Honestly, like, I mean, then pretty quickly it spiraled into like, yeah, fuck all that, but sorry.
Don't worry. It's amazing stuff you're telling us.
Deep. But yeah, I just a lot of things going on in my mind back then, for sure.
Can you remember when you realized that you could become friends with one of your guards?
So I never told him that I'm innocent or I'm guilty. I never brought up anything, because to me, I want to go home, and I know that the people who can make that decision for me, they know that I'm innocent, and they decided, quote unquote, unreleasable. That's my designation, unreleasable. That's it. And I never told him, oh, you know what, I'm innocent of everything. Never once.
You were probably unreleasable also because you were tortured. They were afraid that,
yes, correct.
that your story would get out.
Yes, and they started like to cover up this lie, just like he said, he saved life. You know what? He went through this, but through this torture, so many lives were saved. You know, that's the story.
The lie, yeah, the story.
Yeah, that's the story that they said. And, you know, we were like acting like friends, but the power of this in this friendship is very unbalanced, because he could use violence against me anytime, including killing me. He could break me, and all he needs to do is just write the report that I tried to hurt him, you know. That was not something, I was very careful. I was aware of that. I was very careful. And we only came out of the friendship closet when I was a free man. And then when we sat in Mauritania on this dune, I told him we look like a couple of guys who met through a dating app. Seriously. And they said, don't say that. He's still like this, stuck up. You know.
Shut up about the
Yeah,
dating.
Americans, yeah, I'm like,
Yeah, I know.
God.
Yes. Remember when we sat making iftar on this? And
I
then,
remember that.
Yeah. And then I told this guy, I said, don't film that. I said, but that's what it looked like. You know, we both are like cute, sitting on, you know, very well dressed, you know.
We made it in the film too. Yeah.
Yes. Because he couldn't tell. He always told me, because people told him, this guy is playing game with you. And he also, because he wants to, and then he's just manipulating you. And then you should be also always careful, you know. And then when I was a free man, I could make my decision, and everybody would understand this is my decision. I'm not under threat anymore. It was like, you know, who is going to flinch first? I believe so. I don't know what you think.
No, I agree. Like, there's no way to explain, to have that conversation, you know, in Guantanamo about that. Like, we made the best of the situation, you know, I think we did. And, we didn't know if there was, like, you know, they're listening to us through whatever, you know. They probably were, honestly. They're probably horrified by some of the stuff they heard about. But,
I remember Amy getting angry with one guard one time because she always wants to control everything. And then she wants to be responsible. She is a military interrogator.
Yeah.
So, and she
She's in the
wants
movie
to...
with the cat, sort of. Mask, yeah.
Yes. But she removed. No, this is another one. So, but this was, her character was a combination of the two in the movie. So, and then she wants me only to be happy when she decides for me to be happy, and to be upset when she decides. And then she does not want the guards to treat me in a way without consulting with her. And she gets very upset sometimes with the guy who, the second rotation. And she really grilled them in front of me, which I didn't think it was professional. And she grilled also Rachel.
wow.
Yeah, I thought, wow, she did it in front of me. She hated Rachel, by the way.
Oh, I know, yeah.
Yeah.
For sure.
It was like we were looking for women attention in prison. Come on, seriously, this was like that. And they kicked Rachel out because said, I cannot say that.
Let's not talk about that.
They said she was attracted to me. And then I was like, what? And then, seriously. Yeah, I was like
weird,
shocked.
Lockheed Martin, by the way.
Yeah.
That's what she worked for.
It's of course, I mean, the way you describe it, we can laugh about it, but it shouldn't be too surprising, a deranged place like that.
Yes, very sick.
Sick and deranged things going on.
Yes.
Of course.
Like the week before I got there, actually, the guards all wore masks, like every day, and the only people that didn't were like the interrogators. So they would so he would just be excited to see a human face, and it'd be the evil fucking person that, it's messed up. The whole thing was disturbing all the way through. Even when the interrogators were nice to him, like
it's all a game.
It was all flirting and like.
In a strange way, it might have been more disturbing in the end for you. I mean, I don't know whether I should at least, we can't compare. You were there for a year, you were there for 15 years, in months, mainly in solitary confinement. But if we're sitting here, it might have been more deranging for you than for Mohamedou.
I don't think that's possible. Like, what you went through was, I can't imagine that.
Mohamedou?
War is really bad all around. So
Yeah.
he does not maybe want to admit that he is also very damaged, because you cannot visit pain on someone without visiting pain on yourself. And the camaraderie, the warmth of the camaraderie where he was in, he does not think about what you think now about. And
No.
yeah, because he was in the middle of it. This was all good. America was attacked. Freedom was attacked. The free world was attacked. And I'm telling you that Dutch soldiers, they were doing also this job that
Absolutely.
Steve did. I know that. So, and so, because they saw this like defending the free world against the evil people, i.e., young, Muslim from North Africa and the Middle East. And this premise, I would never accept this premise that American people are read their right. Anything you say can and will be used against you in a court of law, and I don't get that chance. Because I was born in Mauritania, or I was born in Morocco, or in Saudi Arabia, or in Iran for that matter. And I do not accept that. And every time the journalists come back to me, they told me, okay, we talked to your former interrogator. They said you were not being honest with them. I always tell them a word I cannot repeat in this very respected,
I think you can.
Yeah, because the premise, Yuri, is that me, because I was born in Mauritania, I don't have any rights. I have to talk to FBI. I told them I don't have to talk to anyone, But when they torture me, I talk to them like there is no tomorrow, And I wrote all kind of, false confession. And Steve came to repair like a broken man, And I was completely broken. And he used to come to me. I was like in these very heavy nightmares. I don't know what I was doing, but you saw it. I don't have any recollection, honestly.
Yeah, it was like, it was just yeah. It was just not comfortable, like just seeing him, like he was going through something horrible in his sleep and like crying and like, it's made me angry about like, because I know exactly what he was dreaming of, or he could be dreaming that maybe there was me doing it in the future, because like, what if they would have told me? I know that was always one of his fears, is like, his new guards all of a sudden told, oh, hey, it's starting to, turn up the heat, So, if he was having night terrors, it was like, wake him up instantly,
Were you allowed to make your own decisions whether how far to go with treating and how bad to treat the prisoners, or were you supposed to just follow orders with that?
Follow orders, like, the way that, the enhanced interrogation program went, like, once they're talking, you want to keep them talking, They already broke them down to nothing. So then you start giving them little rewards, so, we're just part of the reward system. So, but if you would have just stopped talking, then I don't know what would have happened, I know they threatened him, when I was there, actually.
When you left, like 1 week, she came to me, Amy, that's the interrogator, and she said, I want to make a test to see whether you were lying to me. I said, okay, make a test. And then she came with this dude, his name is Bill, he's old guy, He said, I have this voice stress technology. It's based, they said that they record my answer, and then this technology, they see the pattern of the stress of my voice, and then they said, and then I failed the test. Apparently, I'm not a good liar, I guess. And then she came to me, she was very angry, she said, I trusted you, and you lied to me. I said, Amy, I know the game you're playing. And she said, but I was good to you. I said, Amy, again, I'm not talking to you because you're pretty. If they send me a monkey, I would talk the same way. And then she took the seriously, this is like that. She took the interrogation block and then she threw it. and she left the building. And she sent me the guard. She said, take the Big Lebowski from him. It's a movie.
No.
And then she took everything, and then they came back. They said, we will send you back to torture. I was going crazy. I said, I will tell you everything. Okay, I lied. They never sent her back, you know. It was very bad situation, really, you know. I had more confidence to tell her what was on my mind, but I regretted it. Because always my mouth get me in trouble, always. And I never learn a lesson. By the way, I'm not planning to learn any lesson. So, yeah. That's when Bill came. Remember him? Bill.
Yeah, Bill Miller. Yeah.
Yeah, Bill Miller. He came to replace them.
It was when you were rotated out.
Yeah, I
Was
think
your-
he was
The week
replacement
after him, yeah.
Senior guy.
Were you happy to leave? Sad to leave him? What kind of feelings went through your head when you were rotating out?
It was worry, honestly. I was like, because nobody had a clue where he was going to be, like if he was going to be dropped off in the ocean or, you know, hidden away somewhere. Like, they tried lying to him and saying he was going to be in, what's that federal program where you're hidden away and protect, you know, take on a new identity. And,
Witness
yeah, they said they were going to do
protection.
that, take him to Florida or something. And, like,
Yeah.
we knew it was crap, though. But
It was
I had no
special
clue,
force.
yeah.
He told me it was special force.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, I didn't. I figured he'd still be there. No, you know, like the rest of them. But, yeah.
And then you just told us that this was part of a process where you started realizing that maybe the war was not such a good idea, or maybe it was totally wrong, or was that process finished when you came back from Guantanamo, or when you came home, it must have been difficult to, I mean, you came from a background of thoroughly Republican Bush voters. How did that go when you came back?
I don't speak politics with my family at all. Like, it didn't. Yeah, I did a couple times. It didn't go well. Like, but like, then I'm not a Democrat either. I think they all lie equally to me. You know, they're all the same exact thing, no matter what. Like, so.
Because
So it actually helps in our conversations, like, because like when my family wants to, you know, kiss Trump's butt, I was like, oh yeah, you're like, I hate Biden too, you know. It's like, you know, I could always find someone, you know, somewhere to agree.
because you just, like you just said, Donald Rumsfeld personally signed off on the torture for Mohamedou.
Yeah.
I think we're just going to look at a fragment from the movie, from the Mauritanian, where we, well, let's first have a look and then discuss. This is from a clip from the movie. You can actually see it on Netflix. And if you're at home and you're not one of the lucky ones who's here, we cut this out, so you have to wait a little bit before we get back to you. So just to be clear, this is Mohamedou with his lawyer Nancy Hollander. She was in the same chair as you are now, a few, actually, 1.5 months ago, I think. Here it's Jodie Foster, of course, but what we're seeing here is that from your prison cell, you're suing the most powerful man in the world. Which the actor is laughing at the moment. It's described in the book as well, the moment. But I mean, did you think they were crazy, or did you think you were crazy to do that, or what's happening at that moment? You against the two most powerful people in the world in a place where they can do, like we just heard, you know, they can do anything to you.
So in the beginning, I was very positive. You know, I was very excited because when I was young, I used to watch Married with Children. Anyone know this show?
Married with Children, yeah.
Yes.
The sitcom.
Yeah, sitcom. And by the way, if you know this, then you're really old. So
Thank you.
yeah, I'm sorry to say this. You know, just say you don't even know what this means, and then you can go back home safely. And the other one is Law and Order. So everything happens in 45 minutes, and people go back home. And I was so excited, you know. She came, I said, this is America, freedom. This was a big mix-up. I'm going home and I'm going to have money because I always was thinking about this, sewing and getting millions of dollars. So, but, you know, the cold truth settled in that, one, I was not going home, and two, that Americans are funny, but law and order is not 100%. So 1 for marriage with children, 0 for law and order. And so that's the frustration you see here. I was like, I used to call Nancy, write her a letter, I cannot call, and said, please don't come to me anymore. I don't want anyone. I just don't want to have any more, I don't want to live in hope, false hope, you know. And actually that when Steve contacted her, actually, you know, secretly he contacted her. And he can tell you the story.
Yeah. What was that? What?
This was like when I won the court, and then they refused to release me. Yeah. And then you contacted her, and then you start to play anonymously. Yeah, I want him to hear that story.
Yeah, I was pretending like I was like a CIA spy, you know, just calling up his lawyer. And no, I just wanted to know, you know, news about Mohamedou at the time, you know, because I was waiting for him to hear, you know, something about him, you know, if he was going to come home or not, and I was excited. So, yeah, like Nancy wasn't really allowed to speak with me, honestly. Like, so it was like really, really brief conversations. But she would just say, "Oh, we're working hard, but yeah, we'll let you know." And but yeah, I always use a fake name, and it was a really dumb one. And yeah.
A fake name with Nancy Hollander when you asking about Mohamedou.
Yeah. And then the email I would use also. So she would go and I think explain, oh yeah, your guard reached out, and then she'd explain who I was, and it was like wrong race and everything. Like he would know more about that part, but yeah.
Yeah, she came to me. So what he did in the end, so he was not sure because he was under what they call non-disclosure agreement, NDA.
Yeah.
I was so coward then, yeah.
So, no, but he was just being like, you know, he wanted to help me. He was in a dilemma. So he wanted to help me, but he didn't know how to do it, you know. And then she came to me one day, she said, one of your former guards contacted me. I said, what his name? She said the name. I said, that's fake name. And then she was like, I said, what his race? She said, he's black. Guys, you know, because you met Nancy. Nancy is very sophisticated, very white. So, and to her, any accent that a little bit not very good is black. So his accent is black. I said no.
I was listening to a lot of like DJ Quick and Snoop Dogg at the time, maybe. I don't know. It makes no sense to me.
Absolutely not. And then he wrote a letter, you know, and very beautiful letter. He will share it with you, to the US government. Actually, he came out of the closet of fear and he wrote a letter. And then he said, if you're afraid of him, I think, correct me, he can come and stay with me. Something like that.
Yeah.
He said he can come in my house, which confirmed again the...
Bunk beds, dude.
This is
Come
Amsterdam,
on.
we're
We
safe.
have bunk beds.
You would not be allowed to the USA anymore. Ask for asylum here. I work with Syrian refugees. They don't have place, but we can say you are Ukrainian.
He planned all this.
And what made you decide to come out in the open? Can you remember? Was there sort of about with your real name coming up for?
I stopped caring what the government, what the government thought. I was like, what are they gonna do,
Well, you had seen what they could do.
Yeah.
I mean,
Enough's enough, though. I mean, like, there's so much has happened since then that the government has done. It's sick, It's like, it really bothers me. Like,
and what made you decide to reveal your real name to Nancy Hollander so that she could legally use that?
yeah, I mean, if it would have been whatever that fake name was, I mean, it probably wouldn't even made it to the review board to help him,
Yeah, because you wrote a letter to the review board, to the state, huh?
Yeah.
Pleading for Mohamedou to be let out. Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah. But can you? Was there sort of a moment in which you decided this is enough, or is that a slight process or a long process? Or?
I mean, I've been pretty angry at the government for a while, and honestly, just a phone call from a lawyer, and they, hey, will you do this? Yeah, sure. So it was
Actually, the board respected your letter a lot.
really?
They, because it was very positive, because he was like, in the US, you are a member of the tribe if you work for the government, And they didn't see it as someone is betraying or anything, because the information they have also that I was really innocent. So that corroborated what the intelligence they had. So, and I'm really very grateful, and I say it in front of everybody. And I don't take him for granted. He is the godfather of my son, and I'm the godfather of his daughter, Summer, and he gave me her photo when she was a baby. She was born when he was guarding me, and then he showed me the picture secretly, and when we met for the first time, he gave it to me. That's the picture he showed me in Guantánamo Bay.
It's a pity you can't see it, but it's a wonderful picture of a wonderful little girl. But you showed it to Mohamedou
in Guantánamo
Bay,
yes.
this picture?
Yeah.
Against the rules.
I'm going to be leaving really soon after that, and I was like, I wanted to like, hey, I do truly like you as a friend, and like, showing a picture of your family I felt was hopefully, makes sense to him.
Because the picture was sent to you by your...
No, he went
Yeah,
to see his
yeah.
daughter birth, And then he came back 1 week or 2 weeks, and then
I think four, yeah.
he took me on the side, and then he showed me the picture. And then I memorized it in my head, and then when we met many years after that, he gave me the picture. Teeny tiny. And I kept it in my wallet since the day you gave it to me.
That's awesome.
It is, isn't
It
it?
is really
Yeah.
cool, yeah. Like, my daughter is like a huge fan too. Yeah, like, seriously, like, yeah.
And it actually, it's also interesting because you remembered the picture when we talked to Larry Seams, who was sitting in the same chair you're sitting now, the man who brought this book about, your book. It came out in the conversation, yet you do remember almost everything by the syllable, like every sign and abbreviation and picture, and that the report which you wrote on small pieces of paper is so accurate that Larry Seams, who checked it with hundreds, even thousands, tens of thousands of documents, found out that literally everything in it you remembered accurately. Like this picture, like the picture of your daughter. That must, I mean, that's the way you wrote the book, but it must be also be very, very hard to remember every detail. Or not?
I mean, look, there are two things. You know, I don't have answer, but there are two things. You are a writer, just, you know, I'm trying to be a writer, but you are a writer. So a writer has to be very honest with, and I talked to my good friend Elise last night, and we were talking about this. When you write, you have to be very honest with, you have a responsibility to be very honest. You cannot just write anything that pops into your head. The second thing, I think what helped me is my education, because I went to the Quran school, and we memorized the Quran when we were very small. So, and that, like, you know, mnemonic, you know, that you learn as a child. And people now think they can Google everything, but this is going to dumb us down. I don't know, I'm not a scientist, I shouldn't say this, but, you know, I really like to remember. For instance, I know, Veronica, you do the same thing, but when I came to Amsterdam, I just look at the map, and then I just put my phone away, you know, because I really want to get lost, verdwaald. And then I find my way, because we don't reconnect anymore with nature. We are here. I don't see the houses, I don't see the street, I don't see people. You know, when I go, you know, when you like start learning the language, they ask people the way. I said, this is not anymore. No one asking anyone anything, you know. You know. And that helps a lot for me to remember. And the third thing, that when something happens to you in a very dramatic way, you don't forget it. You know, I never forget, you know, when I was taken from India, the boat ride, they took me, and then I lost consciousness. I don't know how many.
India is one of the buildings in Guantánamo Bay.
Yeah, they took me from India block
Yeah.
to another, so for torture blocks. And then I lost, it seems, because I was only in the dark cell. I couldn't know day or night, you know. And then I remember one interrogator, First Sergeant Charlie, he was checking time, and I saw his time. It was October 10th. I think it was like 20 after 10 or something like that. And I never forget, like, you know. And I also start to counting, like, the holes in my cell, 4,081, I counted. So you don't forget, like, the thing that happens to you in a very dramatic way. And you don't forget someone who did something horrible to you, or something very nice to you. You know, register very, very powerfully. And we are in the Netherlands, we are in Europe after World War II. those memoirs that were written, so vivid, you know.
Yes, that's right. That's right. So, how did you, I mean, communicate that? I mean, if you, in the movie, they rebuilt the cell you were in for most of the time, for all the time, and it's a horrible empty closet. You told me that it's actually very accurate. Yeah, you've seen the movie,
yeah,
you've seen the cell.
shocked,
Yeah.
Yes.
It. So how could you communicate?
Me and
between-
him.
Yeah.
So when he was in the camp, he comes to me. So we talk. After he left, incommunicado.
For years. For
No communication whatsoever.
more than 10 years.
Yes.
Yeah.
I was not allowed to communicate with anyone. And if he writes me anything that goes to the intelligence people and for intelligence gathering. And there are, I always want to apologize. Some people from the Netherlands, they wrote me letters through Amnesty and I believe. So I never got any letters. So I'm just telling you that.
But during your year as a guard, could you open the cell, talk to each other?
Yeah, the U.S. government was in a panic. There's like a lot of investigations, like the FBI was investigating allegations of witnessing torture by the DOD, and so all of a sudden, a lot of things changed. He's also being rewarded, so we were allowed to. Yeah, we'd have this door open all night, and we could go anywhere we wanted, go outside again. No, we didn't have to wear masks or anything. So like, we were also like, trying to cover up for our government too. So.
All right. Yeah. And when did you realize that you could, with this guard, get further than get sort of into a personal contact?
So I was very careful because, so I never asked him or anyone anything about their private life. Mm-hmm. Because I know I was like under scrutiny. And I don't know what kind of, because he also, as a guard, he can write reports about me. So it was like almost a taboo. I just like go with the flow. So, and we only talk about, like mundane stuff, like playing games, because Americans like war games. This risk, you brought risk.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
they always like to be in a fight with someone.
Monopoly.
There is a big enemy.
Oh, yeah.
The big
Monopoly,
conspiracy.
We hate each other.
Yeah. World War II. American were the good guys, of course, in every war.
You just hate my freedom.
Yeah, I know. I was always the bad guy. And I gladly played the bad guy. Yeah, that's the kind. So I was just surviving. So I was not trying to go farther than, because that would be shooting myself in the foot,
Mm-hmm. But you must have realized maybe that something happened by the time he went away, when he showed you the picture of his daughter.
Correct. Not only. He brought me a book called by Steve Martin, the comedian, In Good Company. The pleasure of your company, And then he dedicated to me, and I still have that book. It was taken away from me by the government when he left, And then many years later, we succeeded with the lawyers to get it. And I still keep it in Mauritania. And he really showed me his friendship, but that's it. I didn't want anything else. I didn't want him to save me from anything, And he couldn't get me out of prison if he wanted to. So he brought me pecan pie. That was good. Yeah.
We have another fragment from the Guantánamo Guantánamo Diary, and so we're going to ask Jochem ten Haaf to read it out and talk a little bit more after that, and maybe there's after that some time for questions or from the audience. Jochem.
I was just wishing to pass out so I didn't have to suffer. And that was really the main reason for my hunger strike. I knew people like these don't get impressed by hunger strikes. Of course, they didn't want me to die, but they understand there are many steps before one does. You're not gonna die, we're gonna feed you up your ass, said Staff Sergeant Mary. I have never felt as violated in myself as I had since the DOD team started to torture me to get me to admit to things I haven't done. You, dear reader, could never understand the extent of the physical and much more the psychological pain people in my situation suffered, no matter how hard you try to put yourself in another person's shoes. Had I done what they had accused me of, I would have relieved myself on day one. But the problem is that one cannot just admit to something one hasn't done. You need to deliver the details, which you can't when you haven't done anything. It's not just, yes, I did. No, it doesn't work that way. You have to make up a complete story that makes sense to even the dumbest of dummies. One of the hardest things to do is to tell an untruthful story and maintain it. And that is exactly where I was stuck. Of course, I didn't want to involve myself in devastating crimes I hadn't committed, especially under the present circumstances where the US government was jumping on every Muslim and trying to pin any crime on him. We are going to do this with you every single day, day in, day out, unless you speak about Abdul Malek and admit to your crimes, said Staff Sergeant Mary.
You, dear reader, could never understand the extent of the physical and much more the psychological pain people in my situation suffered, no matter how hard you try to put yourself in another's shoes. And that's very true, of course. But you've been in the circumstances where you've met a lot of those people who had gone through those experiences. Do you think that after that you can relate more to it? Or is that still as... You've seen it, what it does to people?
Yes, that one more time. Sorry, I was like.
I ask you one more time, sure.
Yeah.
Sure. You know, you've witnessed Mohamedou and others who've been broken, really, like you said, you know, really been destroyed.
Yeah.
You think you can somehow understand what they've been through?
No, there's no way, like, no. Like, only he knows what he's been through, like, you know, for sure.
And psychologically, Mohamedou survived, but you've seen others maybe who haven't at Guantánamo.
I watched him pretty much the entire time, so.
You were one-on-one.
Yeah.
Yeah. You wrote that passage, Mohamedou, and now you sitting in front of one of your guards. It's very difficult to, I mean, it's very beautiful, but it's very hard for me to understand how you managed to not hate the people who locked you up for 15 years, over 15 years. Very difficult to understand, because indeed, I cannot understand what you've been going through, but I would think that I would not be able to, to have a conversation like we're having.
My nephew, Salim, you met him. He's 5 or 6. And then he came. You know, we were very excited when Steve came to us, and he stayed...
In Mauritania.
In Mauritania, he stayed in my house, everything. Mm-hmm. And then my nephew came to me, he said, "Who is this guy?" You know, I said, he's my former guard. He said, why do you allow him in our house? I said, yeah, he's my friend. And he said, why? But he was your guard. And then I didn't know the answer. And then he told me, did he have the key? I said, yes, he did have the key. And he said, could he open the door of the cell? I said, he could open the door. And he told me, but he did not. And then, like Steve echoed some like that he wished he had like blew the whistle, you know, at that point, you know, about Guantánamo Bay. But, you know, it's very hard like for people to be other than the mainstream. It takes a lot of weirdness and courage to say, I don't want to be part of this.
Yeah.
Because the group is very warm.
Yeah.
Being with the group, agreeing with everybody, you know. And to me, forgiveness, it's how I find my peace and my freedom. Because I'm not doing it like to please anyone. I'm doing it because I really believe that, you know, holding like grudges, it's like drinking poison and hoping that your enemy dies, like someone put it. You know, I'm not drinking that poison. And I know I can go to my bed and I'm going to sleep like a child because I'm not holding any grudge. And I don't care when they made the movie, by the way, you know, your colleague, Jean Goetz, you know, who made the movie. And when he made me talk face to face to the people who harmed me, some of them, they said, we are sorry, really. And so I said, no problem. I forgive you. And then this woman, she said, you should die. You don't deserve to live. I was laughing so hard.
One of the women who tortured
because she was in pain, actually. And I know I wasn't in pain. She was in so much pain that she saw me breathing and outside of a cell. This is TOF, tons of fun.
She was evil back. Like, yeah, she's always been evil.
Yeah, I mean...
Sydney.
Yeah. She was so... And to me, the same thing. If they accept or don't accept, same thing. I still go back and drink my tea. Cheers. It's for me, it's not for anyone else. And I'm a citizen. I need to be a good citizen because in order to promote also democracy and freedom, I need to forgive because, you know, I want people in this country to be in like 20, 30 years, not anymore to differentiate between someone who is coming from Somalia, Syria, and someone who is coming from Ukraine. You know, I want that. And I want people to be free everywhere. I want people to be free in Iran, to be free in Africa, in the Middle East. And I want us to cooperate. And I start with myself. And I do believe that American people are not my enemy. Absolutely not my enemy.
I don't know how he does it. Like, yeah. Like, I have to learn from him to like, because I hate a lot of those guys, you know, like the interrogators and stuff. And I want to like put their name, you know, out them to the media. You know, I would love that. You know, just you know, embarrass them or something. But I don't know. It's a tough one.
Yeah.
But yeah, he's right. Like the forgiveness and like it's all important, but it's gonna keep happening. You know, I mean, like that's his job to forgive. That's awesome. It's beautiful. But like, you know, Americans, we need to like fucking stand up and not let it happen anymore. You know, because it will continue. And you guys got to start. You know, I mean, the rest of the world stand up and say, hey, you know, America's doing it wrong.
Well, we've done our part in Holland in those wars, so that it would be true to stand up against, you know, our policies as well. I mean, not
I
only
mean, I
against
understand
America,
that, but like, what would happen if you didn't? That they would have punished you guys financially or something. I mean, like, the U.S. has a lot of power. They do whatever the fuck. So, I'm sorry for my language. And I love America.
You ain't going back, bro.
Damn.
But that's very interesting. You're saying, and you're saying forgiving. That's his part. My part is being angry about the things we've been doing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's got to be like, we have to remember for it to not happen again. You know.
On the other hand, that's very, very, very well said. Of course, that drinking poison and you grudge and hate and revenge, and drinking poison and hoping the other man dies. It will poison yourself, of course, if you keep that grudge. But on the other hand, you're right. If nothing changed.
Yeah. I got to know, so Mr. X is one of the, was like one of the worst ones in Mohamedou. And I actually got to know him really well over, it was over the phone and stuff. Cause like, I wanted to talk to him originally I just wanted to say a few things to him. But,
you talked on the phone to Mr. X, one of the main torturers of
Yeah. And I actually learned a lot from the guy, and he was, I don't know where I was gonna go with this, but but no, you're right. Like I had a grudge, like he's forgiving, and like I was like, maybe I'll be the one to be the asshole and like
kick his ass.
No, not kick his ass.
No,
but,
not literally, but
no.
Yeah. Tell him, yeah.
But like all it did was made me more angry with the U.S. It was like he said the same thing that I'd always said. It was like he said this to me in tears. Like he was like, it was like I was being told I was a hero. I was saving thousands of lives, and like it was just like literally like word for word that was told to me to treat Mohamedou good,
Yeah.
And which is no excuse. I mean, in the U.S. military, you turn down illegal orders. You're allowed to do that, but I don't know. Like, I can't.
So you're also saying you were just lucky that you were the one who've been told to treat him good, and Mr. X was the one who've been told to treat him bad, and it's just sort of.
That's what makes me angry. Is nobody should ever have to be in that position.
Yeah. No, I understand.
You've got to trust the leader of your nation.
Yeah.
But yeah.
You're saying something also very beautiful, I think. Forgiving, I do it for me. It's not to please other people. It's because I want to be able to live, isn't it?
Yes, absolutely. You have a very beautiful saying in our tradition. It's a verse that says, and if you forgive, you get closer to completeness. So that's forgiving. It's like, it's very important. I'm not saying this, I was always this way, because in the beginning, I did not want to forgive.
And what is the beginning?
In the beginning of my kidnapping, I was very angry.
Yeah.
I did not want to forgive, but I always asked myself, so what do I want as revenge? Do I want to kill everybody who did anything to me? Do I want to kill their families? Do I want to bomb them like they did bomb us? I didn't have any answer how much I would be satisfied. Mm-hmm. And the only thing that would satisfy me is forgiveness. And then it was, this is it. I just, and it also goes, it's in the keeping with my promise to be a kind person, because, and it's very, even self-serving, because people could see in the camp that I really didn't mean them any harm. And Steve knows that everybody he met said, I really like Mohamedou. I don't think that he's a bad guy, That's almost everyone, except those, like this woman, Sydney. I love when she gets angry because Because he gets worked up really bad. I was like, are you serious? Because she wanted to jump from the Zoom call and choke me. Ah! Yeah.
She hated the guards too, yeah.
Really?
We snuck into movies for you, and she caught us that one time.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, she's a very angry person.
So angry.
And in a way, you know, I think this is bad, but in a way, I get satisfaction when I see her angry, getting angry, you know, a little bit. You know, like, you know, when you break up with someone, you want to forgive them, but you really want them to suffer a little bit. Just a little bit, just the right amount, you know.
We have another fragment which I think we're not going to watch. I think I'm thanking you both very much from the bottom of my heart for this conversation. Conversations you started in a very dark place, as you said it. I think we just heard a few things out of that very, very dark place. I don't think it even is about 10%, which is there to say about, you know, those places and what people actually do to each other and what they're capable of. I'm really impressed with both of you. I think it's amazing that you both, you know, what we've seen here, it says a lot on the positive side, on what people are actually capable of in a very positive way. I wish there were more people who are capable of those things in a positive way. I thank you very, very, very much. There might be, I'm sure not everybody can ask questions. There might be room afterwards in the bar, but maybe there is somebody who has a question to ask. And maybe there's somebody behind my back. Oh, there are, yeah, right. There are more people behind my back than there, actually. Veronica will come to you with the microphone, because otherwise the people at home can't hear you.
I don't know if I understand it well, but Steve, have you always been human to Mohamedou? I mean, that's my impression. Is that right? Because then it wouldn't be so surprising that you're friends, because you always saw him as a human person.
It was just naturally, even, yeah, I don't know. I just don't have that part in, sorry.
Don't worry.
It was just natural. Like, I don't have a hard time treating people like crap, you know, I guess. You know, and even...
we go on to the next one, because there's...
Because I don't understand, because I don't understand that you say that it's astonishing that they're friends, but then... For me, it's not very astonishing. I mean, how do you look at that, Steve?
I don't think anything I've done is astonishing. You're right. Like, I was told to be nice to, you know, Mohamedou, and you know, it's true. Like, I was told to be that way, and I thank God I was told to be that way. But to me, in my part, it turned into something real. It stopped being acting. When I realized like he was actually a really good person, and I didn't believe anything else that the governor was saying. So.
Over here. Actually, I do think it's astonishing, but maybe you don't, but I do.
I think it's really admirable that even though a lot of people hurt you, both mentally as well as physically, you don't seem to be hateful or revengeful towards them, while a lot of people think like, you hurt me, so now I have to hurt you. That's the way it works. Then it's balanced out. And I wonder what you say to yourself when someone does hurt you in some sort of way, to act the way you have been acting this whole night, very kind and caring and loving with a lot of respect. What do you say to yourself when you notice that someone treats you wrong and you still decide to treat them right?
We have a saying in Arabic. I was like conditioned, I thought the mic would go to me. And then you run away.
You have your own mic.
So, you know, we have a saying, ما عاقبت من عصى الله فيك بمثل ما أطعت الله فيك. The big punishment you can visit upon someone who wrong you is to do right by them. That's the biggest punishment you can visit upon them. You see, you know, I don't like get close to people who potentially could hurt me. So when I know someone is negative, I take a very big distance, you know. And I know where I stand. I know people who love me. I know people who care about me. I waste my time with them, you know, and my energy. So, and I think, but that come with age and wisdom, you know. But we can start also now just to, you know, identify people who I care about, who care about me, who love me no matter what, and then I stick to them. This way, I minimize the damage that, you know, could happen to me.
Lady over there with the...
مرحبا.
Marhaba. We have an Arabic quotation says the word is very narrow. I covered the two of the Yemeni prisoners were in Guantánamo, I think in 2002 or 2003, and I was a young journalist in Yemen, and I covered their stories, Sheikh Mohammed Al-Muayyad and Abd Salam Al-Hila, and they were in Guantánamo. And at that time, when I was covering their stories in Guantánamo, it was like my manager was punishing me because if you are covering Al-Qaeda people, means you will be under the problems of Ali Abdullah Saleh regime. So while you are talking about all these things, I remember the trauma that I was suffering at that time and start shaking inside myself. And while you were watching the film, and I wonder if Mohammed is remembering the trauma that he lived through. And I kept watching you. How was your reaction? Anyway, that's why I didn't imagine in my life that I will be in this situation, watching someone who was in Guantánamo and also the guard, Mr. Steve. That's why I want to share my experience that while you are talking about these things, I remember my trauma during that time. I was really shaking. Sheikh Mohammed Al-Muayyad, one of the prisoners, died, and Mohammed Al-Hila, Abd Salam Al-Hila, I covered his also story. His father and mother died while he was in Guantánamo, and until now I don't know about the end of his story. This is what I would like to share. There's no questions.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing. I think maybe one of the last questions is the gentleman. Yeah.
Yeah, hi. I have a question for Steve. Most of the things you told us were when you were on duty, so fully in your role. But you were in your early 20s on an island, you know, in the middle of the Caribbean. And how was that once you went out of your role and off duty? Like, were there people you trusted? Was there room to relax or maybe even have fun? Like, how did you cope with this super weird situation?
I went to the gym like twice a day and ate a lot of. Yeah, I exercised a lot and ate a lot, and honestly, like, I love scuba diving and snorkeling. It's like my favorite passion. But I went to the beach twice that year, or that 10 months. It was just like, I don't know. It was just a dark place.
You weren't able to enjoy yourself anymore.
Yeah, I didn't want to. It was like, it wasn't fair, you know. I don't know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. There was a gentleman with the blue over there, but you have to wait for a moment, the microphone to reach you. Otherwise, the people at home won't be able to.
I sincerely apologize. Okay, thank you so much. By the way, fantastic to be here and to witness this. Thank you so much. I guess for both of you, but mostly I think for Steve, how would your former colleagues view your friendship? I mean, do they look kindly on you, or do they think you're on the wrong side? Or, and I guess also for you from the, other inmates, how are they coping, and how do they sort of reflect on how you are approaching this?
I mean, I've a couple of colleagues that have, will not talk to me at all. But surprisingly, there's quite a few that will, and like they understand, and like it shocked me actually. It's like, yeah. But.
Should I say something?
If you feel
My family cannot say no because we are afraid of Americans. So. If we don't like it, we pretend we like it. All we pray for is just that the drone over us goes the other way.
There's a last question with the lady with the.
How many last questions?
I think the green. Yeah, that was the third last question, wasn't it? Yeah. There are many, many more questions. I'm aware of that. I see your hands, and I sympathize.
Hi. My question has to do with when I saw that the movie was going to come out on your story, I was really surprised to see that this was going to be a Hollywood production, something that was so critical of the U.S. How did it come to be made? Who came to you and said, "Hey, I want to make this into a movie"? Or how far along was it before they came to you? Like, how was that process? And did you really believe that this was actually going to happen?
So, two short comments. So the USA is a free country. US people are free people, you know that. And, and this is not a government. Of course, if you make a government propaganda movie, you get a lot of money from the government, like Zero Dark 30. You know about this movie? I wouldn't waste my time watching propaganda because I grew up in under military regime, and I know propaganda when I see propaganda. So this movie contract was made when I was in prison, because the book came out, and then someone read it in Hollywood, who is, and they contacted my lawyer, okay, and they told her they want the book, and they want to make a movie out of the book, Lloyd and Bia. And, the woman also who made Zero Dark 30, Bigelow, Catherine Bigelow, is that her name? She also contacted my lawyer. He said, I want to turn this book into a movie. So people of the trade, when they see potential, they know what, this means. And it was, cooperation between the BBC and the U.S. companies, and and this movie came about just like that.
And actually, a lot of people.
I think
the
young lady want to ask you a question.
Now you're just saying that last question?
Yeah, I'm a pleaser, so.
Which lady you were?
And thank God I'm not Dutch. I don't have to be direct. So.
And which lady you were pointing at?
I think she wants the young.
At the floor. Yeah.
Thank you so much for sharing this story. Really touched it and enjoyed it. What would you advise to your children to see the future and how to see light in the future if they know and feel your story? And what would you advise us to build bridges to the future and a more justice and free future for everyone? Big question.
It's a good last question.
There is this French philosopher who said, "Je n'enseigne pas, je raconte." I don't preach, I tell stories. So, and I think the most powerful thing I could do to your generation and to my kid is to show them that I'm a good person. And I'm showing you, ik praat Nederlands en ik ben helemaal oud. En ik heb mezelf Nederlands geleerd. This is an example that I know young people can follow and quit being perfect and not, don't be afraid to make a mistake, because people relate to you when you make mistake, because everybody makes mistake, even Steve Wood.
When was this?
No one.
Apart from Steve Wood, yes, I thank you very much, both of you. This was actually the last meeting of a year of artist in residence of Mohamedou Ould Slahi. We're very, very proud that you did. We're very, very happy with that. But today, we heard that the FE Fonds is allowing us to extend your artist in residentship. So that next year we're going to have more of those conversations, and especially going to a very large amount of Dutch schools, which you've been doing the last 2-3 weeks already with the Balie visiting schools, talking to children, building bridges to the future. I'm very happy that the FE Fonds gives us the possibility to extend your artist in residentship with us. So I hope maybe somewhere in the next year other conversations like this will happen. I hope to see you back at the Balie. Now we can have a beer or a tea. And thank you very much, Veronica Baas and Jante Mosselman, for putting this series together. Wonderful, wonderful work. And thank you for coming and sharing.
I really appreciate it.